to the Cleveland Browns Minnesota Viking preview with, yes, we are back, the Johnny Cleveland podcast. Yes, it's been an interesting last 4 or 5 months. Our Johnny Cleveland podcast kind of went away for a bit. We tried a new format with another platform that did not pan out, but we are back, folks. We are the Johnny Cleveland podcast, and we are excited to be here, especially on this Sunday morning as we preview the Cleveland Browns and the Vikings in a couple hours. It's a little bit after 11, so we've got about an hour and 52 minutes till the Browns kickoff up there in Minnesota. Very excited to see what pans out with this game. The return of Kevin Stefanski, who was a long-time assistant coach with the Vikings. He came out of Penn, playing there, and became an assistant right away with the Vikings. For 14 years, he spent up there. And so can't imagine that there won't be some emotion today. How that emotion plays out with what we see and how the Browns do will be very interesting to find out. Kevin Stefanski has talked about this week, this trip being a business trip. You can check out my article, my latest on that one, on the Dog Pound Daily. I'm a contributor to that periodical, also to King James Gospel and the Cleveland Sports Doc. So check out all my latest articles there. Again, you can follow the Johnny Cleveland Podcast on Facebook, on Twitter at the Johnny Cleveland Podcast. And our email is jclevelandpod@gmail.com. Send us your notes, send us your messages, send us what you think of the show. And we love your contributions. It's been a fun time over the last few months, have gained lots of momentum, especially with followers. Thank you also for following my Twitter page on John Suchan, JOHN, Appreciate those followers. Go Browns. We've done all sorts of things leading up to this season, including we had a lot of fun doing our kickoff to the Chiefs game. Of course, that game did not pan out the way we had hoped as Browns fans. Now the Browns sit at 2 wins, 1 loss. What will happen today? We have, a lot of momentum. We got a good win last week. It wasn't fantastic by the offense. Our defense, though, came to play, only allowing 47 yards, which is just amazing. The last time that happened was back in 1946 when the Browns had become a franchise. So lots of excitement last week. Myles Garrett was so dominating. My goodness, 4.5 sacks, 9 sacks for the team. Can they carry that over to today's game up there in Minnesota against Kirk Cousins and those 1-2 Vikings? Yes, the Vikings and Kirk Cousins has gotten off to a good start offensively. I think he's thrown 8 touchdowns, no interceptions. Will that continue for Kirk Cousins? I don't think so. Never had a lot of appreciation for Kirk Cousins on a personal level. So I hope that the Browns annihilate him, take care of business. I hope that Myles Garrett continues to dominate like he showcased last week. I had not seen, and maybe you hadn't seen either, how Garrett just was really just in tune, aggressive. And a lot of folks have said, well, it was who he was guarding and whatnot on the Bears. But, it doesn't matter. Every week they're playing an NFL team. There are a lot of people that have said, well, Justin Fields for the Chicago Bears in his rookie year, they didn't do a lot with him. They didn't roll him out. Granted that was the case, but the Browns beat them solidly, especially defensively. The offense for the Browns last week was okay. It wasn't bad. Again, Baker Mayfield, our Browns quarterback, can and will continue to play well. He manages games well, and I look for that to be him to be on target today. Odell Beckham Jr., where will he be in this game's outcome? How important will it be for him to have a good game? I posed that question on Twitter recently about who would be the most important, the key to that win. By the way, check out my article too on Dog Pound Daily about 3 players that would be key to the Browns winning, including Baker Mayfield. Somebody was commented back on Twitter saying that they thought that was illogical, that obviously Baker Mayfield should be the most important because he's our quarterback. Yes, I know quarterback is a pretty important position for the team. I got you. But there are a lot of other good players, and they have a lot to do with the outcome of the game. Last week, I had suggested that Nick Chubb, prior to the game, would hopefully have a good game last week against the Bears, and he had a solid performance, 22 carries, 84 yards rushing. Wasn't anything over the top spectacular, and everyone's so used to Nick Chubb going for a 5 or 6, 7 yard average on every carry. That didn't happen last week. So be it. He's allowed not to have that average. I think it was down more like 3 or 4 yards, which is still very good. His teammate, counterpart, and the polar opposite of Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, was on fire last week. Man, wasn't that fun watching Kareem Hunt. We were at the game there. We sit in section 544 now. Wonderful place. Got a lot of great fans up there in section 544, right near the B Spot, Michael Simon's restaurant that serves great burgers, great onion rings, and all that fun stuff. So check us out next time. If you're up at a Browns game, we'll be up in section 544 in that back row. So say hi, come by, say hi to me and my family. We'd love to meet you. Okay. So lots to, dissect going into this game today. I do think the Browns are going to pull this win out. Obviously, I'm a Browns fan, so we're going to be rooting very hard for them. If the Browns come out in the way that they normally can and perform, well on offense, manage the game offensively, move the ball, take control of the clock, get some good drives early. That last week was kind of the opposite of what we saw in week 1 when the Browns played the Chiefs. The Chiefs, in that game, the Browns had several very good series. It was a very good half of football for the Browns that week 1. Last week, the Browns tried a couple 4th down plays. They could not convert. It was a little bit of a surprise. Kevin Stefanski sometimes will surprise you. I don't know if I was very excited about those decisions at the time. I was speculating about Stefanski's call there, but it is early in the season. He is trying a few things, and it didn't pan out. Our offensive line, a lot of people have talked about, seemed to be struggling. Wills, with his ankle injury, is not helping. So, but the Bears, have to give the Bears some credit. They do have a decent defense. They have been known to have a good defense. So it wasn't a complete shock. But the Browns did start moving the ball, especially behind, like we mentioned before, Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt was called lots of different descriptive adjectives this week, from the Tasmanian devil to a bucking bronco and a wild man, according to Nick Chubb. And it was funny because when we were sitting at the game last weekend, the fans around us, and we were all commenting, and I just have said for a while now, every time you see Kareem Hunt, just bolting into the defensive opponent, he's just full throttle, right? He just goes barreling into these guys, and oftentimes it looks like he's doing cartwheels with the way his body maneuvers, and his legs try to kick up sideways or upside down. He hits on his head. Sometimes it's looking like he's doing cartwheels going down the field. But it's exciting to watch. And then he gets those good runs, and he was asking his teammates to keep feeding him. He was very agitated, very, very excited about last week's game. And that really, honestly, I think got everybody around him, his teammates, all pumped up. And what a luxury, right? To have Kareem Hunt and a Nick Chubb on the same team. Nick Chubb is the polar opposite of Kareem Hunt, and just super quiet, doesn't say a lot, but just does his business, goes out there, grinds every day, and gets that yardage to help preserve lots of wins for the Browns. So what will happen today? I imagine Nick Chubb's going to have, I don't know if he's going to get the 22 carries he got a week ago. I would say probably he and Hunt are going to get, well, I would say Chubb might get anywhere around 15, 16 carries maybe. I do think Chubb's going to be able to break a few gappers. He's only had his longest play from scrimmage right now is that 26-yard run he had when he scored the touchdown in the game against the Houston Texans in week 2. So I imagine he's going to break one a little bit more for that. The Minnesota Vikings defense is really not very good. If you go back and if you look at their stat lines and whatnot, they're giving up an average of 410 yards of offense to their opponent. The Browns, on the other hand, are gaining 410 yards on average for their offense. So that would suggest, if you're following me, that the Browns should have the ability to score, get a lot of yards, and continue to do what they've been doing. I would expect that. I also think that Baker Mayfield will have some opportunities to go deep. I think OBJ will be an integral part of what happens today. He looked very good. 5 catches. He was targeted 9 times for 74 yards, I believe, on the day, 77 yards. So it was a good start for him and for Baker and OBJ. A lot of people have commented about their chemistry, and they have worked a lot in the offseason, and I expect that that's going to continue to gain momentum. Look forward to seeing how that all pans out between the two of them today. Isn't it just exciting? You know, when you watch our Browns now, and you sit back and I reflect back, I used to be a Browns backer, used to live out there in Wichita, Kansas. Hey, everybody, those of you, the Wichita Browns backers, a great, great loyal fan base. If you're ever rolling through Kansas, many of you might be taking that trip west, maybe to Colorado, drop down to Wichita. If you're a Browns fan, check out the backers there, right off of Interstate 35, and they meet at a local sports bar there called Quincy's, and they have the whole back room decorated in Cleveland paraphernalia. It's awesome. About 30 to 40 folks that meet every Sunday. The one of the greatest group of loyal Browns fans. So check them out. But back in the day when we would sit, and I was living out there and attending those games with those loyal Browns backers. I mean, you and I both know, if you were living in Willoughby or Avon or out in Toledo and you're a Browns fan, or anywhere that you're sitting there, you're watching these games, or even if you're across the pond. I know there are lots of fans that are over there in England rooting on the Browns today. Wherever you are, there have been so many years, and you and I know this, where they have just struggled. And to now be able to watch this team at a real elite level, and they're only continuing to get better, to have the ability to get closer to that elusive Super Bowl. First, we got to get to the Super Bowl, and then we got to win it. Can we do both those things this year? Absolutely, we can. You know it, and I know it. And there are a lot of teams across the country and a lot of fan bases across the country that they may not say that they're worried, and they may act like they're better than the Cleveland Browns. But you and I both know, as Browns fans, that we are coming. We are coming. It's a storm, and we're going to be here for a while. So it's exciting. It's real exciting. You can just sense the enthusiasm amongst fans. When I talk to those old friends of mine in Wichita at the Browns backers group, there's a new sense of identity, and it's a wonderful time if you're a Browns fan. So let's keep it going and get a win later today so we can celebrate a Victory Monday. What are you planning on wearing tomorrow for your Victory Monday? And when you go to work, are you going to be decked out in your Cleveland gear, representing your favorite team? I hope you are. I will. And it should be a lot of fun. So we got the offense. Hopefully it'll be clicking today with OBJ, Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt. Will we have another outstanding game? I suspect that maybe the Browns try to go back to some tight end matchups. David Njoku, you didn't really see much of him last week. Austin Hooper caught the touchdown pass, which was excellent. But what happens today with that? Do they go back to those tight end Baker tries to hit those guys a little bit more. And will our defense continue to dominate like they did last week? There was a lot of chatter going into last week's game, especially about the Browns' defensive secondary. And there's still questions out there. John Johnson, the safety for the Browns, commented over this last weekend. Somebody asked him about the not having any turnovers or whatnot. And he said, well, it was because Justin Fields, every time you turned back, he was on the ground being sacked, which is true. Bears didn't have any real long completions at all, other than, like, I think that first series, they had a couple plays that went for some distance, but outside of that, there was nothing. So we'll see what happens with the Vikings. Obviously, the Vikings are coming in confident. It's a home game. Will be their second home game in a row. Kirk Cousins is on fire. Again, I don't like Kirk Cousins on a personal level. I think he's a jerk. So what do the Browns do today with him? I think the Browns are going to step up. I think the Browns are going to create some turnovers this game. I really have that sense in my gut that that's going to possibly happen, and look forward to that. And maybe that's what we'll be talking about at the end of game time today. Stefanski obviously was with the Minnesota Vikings for 14 years. There are many people there that are the same. There are many players there that have worked with Stefanski over the years as well. And a lot of praise goes Stefanski's way. How will that play out? Will there have any bearing on the outcome of the game? I certainly hope that I hope that Kevin Stefanski doesn't try to do too much. Will he try some razzle dazzles and some extra fun plays? If you think back last year with the Browns when they went down to Dallas and how they were throwing all sorts of things, everything but the kitchen sink at the Cowboys there, and reverse runs, and I think the lateral from OBJ or Jarvis Landry through the pass to OBJ for the touchdown. So will they continue doing some of that? We'll find out. It'll be a harsh crowd. Last year the Browns and all the teams probably benefited a little bit from not having those hostile crowds to have to go up against, especially when their offense was on the field. So how will that play out today up there in Minnesota? The Browns cannot afford, I don't think, to go down too far. If they get down, a touchdown, maybe 10 points, okay, we can work back, or even 2 touchdowns. But if it gets beyond that early on, that we could be in some bit of trouble. I don't suspect that that's going to happen. I think the Browns have enough firepower, especially offensively, that if their defense gives up a touchdown or 2, I think the Browns offense can counter that. So it'll be a lot of fun. I think this game will be, I don't think it's going to be a huge high scoring affair though. Maybe there's a quick touchdown by both teams early on, and it get the sense that it could be a back and forth kind of game, but I'm thinking something like a 24-21 win today for the Brownies. 24-21, I think. Chase McLaughlin hit hit a couple big kicks last week, had one for 57 yards, and I think he has secured that position. Very, very, very impressive on his end. Does Demetric Felton, the rookie, does he do anything spectacular today? Some folks I was hearing comments where I was sitting last week about, does Demetric Felton remind you of Josh Cribbs, the old great Cleveland Brown player of the past? I don't see that at all. I think that Demetric Felton is going to be a good running back and a good return man in the kick game, but I don't see him breaking big ones like Josh Cribbs used to do. Just the way the game is and the speed of the game, he's just not that kind of player. And I could be wrong. Maybe he breaks one today, and we'll be talking about that after the game. So we'll find out. But I certainly think the Browns have all sorts of positives on the offensive side of the ball. The defense, if Cousins hits a touchdown or 2 early on in the game, could spell some issues. And we might be talking again about Joe Woods, the Browns defensive coordinator, and is his job safe? I posed that question in an article on Dog Pound Daily a couple weeks ago. Got a lot of people commenting back and forth about it. Joe Woods is a good coach. He's been in different organizations, but in my research on him, he has never been that successful where he's, winning Super Bowls. Obviously, some of you might recall that he was the defensive backs coach for the San Francisco 49ers back when the Kansas City Chiefs came back in the second half and won that Super Bowl 2 years ago. So, Kansas City Chiefs are struggling a little bit too. Just, in the AFC, does Kansas City, should we be thinking that Kansas City Chiefs aren't as good as we thought maybe they were going to be? Or is this just a little bump in the road? And are the Chiefs really, should they be the AFC, the top of the AFC? Obviously, they've been there twice, and they've been there many years now, and obviously we respect that. It was not a huge surprise that they lost to the Los Angeles Chargers a week ago, but they did lose that game at home at Arrowhead, which is a little bit of a surprise. The Buffalo Bills, I was looking at their schedule upcoming, and my God, they have a cakewalk. They have a cupcake schedule, I should say. They play the New York Jets twice in the next couple weeks, and a couple other teams that are just lousy right now. So, the Buffalo Bills, are they going to continue to be up there and challenge the Browns? The Browns this week, they play the Vikings. After they play this game, they travel out west to play, those Los Angeles Chargers, which, could be a big challenge. We'll see what the Chargers do this week. And the Browns, traditionally, when they go out west, they usually have decent games. But we'll see what they do against the Chargers. They haven't had a great deal of success with the Chargers. By the way, I'm going to take a sip of I'm not using, if you're watching this on the recorded broadcast here, we're using StreamYard here on the Johnny Cleveland podcast. I've got my little coffee here. Give me a moment so I can get my little coffee. So after the Browns go out to Los Angeles, they come back and play probably, in my opinion, the most important stretch of games for the team. All three games are at home. It starts with the Arizona Cardinals. By the way, the Arizona Cardinals are playing the LA Rams today in a very important game. I'm anxious to see how that is. I never think that Arizona is that good, but they've started out pretty well, and then everyone's talking about them. Can they continue their momentum? So the Browns play the Arizona Cardinals in the first week back. I think it's in the middle of October. So what would that be, like October 17th? They have the home game against the Cardinals. Then they have a short week, and they have the Denver Broncos coming to town on Thursday Night Football. Big night, national TV. Browns will be ready, but it's a short week. Then they get that weekend off, and then the following Sunday they have the Pittsburgh Steelers coming to town. And the Steelers, they won that first game against the Buffalo Bills, which was kind of a shock considering. And the Steelers since then have really looked really poor. And where will the Steelers be in 4 weeks? Will they have won a game? Will Ben Roethlisberger have retired? He's just looking awful. I mean, come on, folks. It's fine with me. We love it. I've always hated Big Ben. Overrated, big dude. Had trouble in his past. He should just go home to, and retire. But will he be there? I don't know. I'm going to guess probably not. By 4 weeks, he might have been annihilated, sacked multiple of times. And that's all good for us Browns fans. So those 3 games. So this stretch really of the next 5 games, you look at where the Browns are. They're 2 wins, 1 loss. We'll see what happens today in this game. I'm predicting a win for the Brownies, 24-21. Then they go out to San Diego. Again, not San Diego. Boy, it would be nice to go to San Diego, though. Wouldn't you rather go to San Diego than Los Angeles? I mean, I would. Anyway, then they got the 3 home games. The Cardinals, the Broncos, and the Steelers. So let's just say you lose one of these games in the mix, maybe 2. So you go 3-2 over the next 5. So that gives you're sitting now at what? 7 and, well, no. What do we got? So 5-3. So you're sitting at 5-3 after those first 8 games, which isn't bad. Are the Browns going to go 12-5? Some of you are predicting that they're going to go 12-5. They went 11-5 a year ago. I could see them going 12-5, but let's see what happens over this next stretch of 5 games. But Kevin Stefanski, what I love about him, the Browns coach, and don't you love this about him? It's week to week. So while I'm skipping ahead 5 weeks and trying to predict scores, Kevin Stefanski knows, and he has just ingrained this into these players that he coaches. It's just a week by week, day by day environment. And I love that. And that's why the Browns have had success and why they're going to continue to have success with Stefanski. And I see him being here for a while. Let's get him a Super Bowl. Let him get us a Super Bowl appearance and then win. And we'll go by that. So, all right, folks, I hope you have enjoyed our little preview of the Browns and the Minnesota Vikings coming up here very shortly. It is a little bit after 11:30 now here. If you're watching this has been recorded, but we're going to get this out very shortly before the Browns hit the field here in about an hour and a half up there. Very excited. Go Browns. Make sure to follow. Again, I contribute to the Dog Pound Daily, to the King James Gospel, and to Cleveland Sports Talk. So check all those places out on the web. Have had a lot of support. Thank you for reading all of the articles. Would love for you to check those out. Try to get a couple articles out every week for you guys to follow me in my writings. And I appreciate that, Browns Nation, really do. And again, follow the show, the Johnny Cleveland Podcast. We are back. Very excited to have the podcast back with our name, as it should be. And again, you can find, we have a website too, Zazzle.com. If you type in Johnny Cleveland Podcast, you can find some of the great apparel. We have coffee mugs, t-shirts. If you're watching this on the broadcast, you can see part of our artwork there in the upper corner of the broadcast. So if you'd like a Johnny Cleveland Podcast t-shirt, we would love to sell you one. So, and you could be helping contribute to our podcast and growing our brand. So thank you so much. Again, if you want to email me at jclevelandpod@gmail.com, I would love to read your comments and see how we can make this podcast even better. We've had some really great guests that have come on our show. I know Paul from the big Cleveland Brown fan, Paul Brown from over there in England. We've had several guests too. We've had the UK group with the Hellhound, the dog, or the UK East, and then Inbounds, 2 Feet Inbounds have come on recently. Joe Madden Sports, she has been on our show a couple times. We're going to try to get those people back on our show as the season continues. Any of you out there too that follow the show and are into doing your own podcasting shows on various teams, we would love to join you in we could do a podcast together. So look forward to those moments. Again, Browns play the Vikings this afternoon. Look for the Browns to beat the Vikings 24-21. This is the Johnny Cleveland Podcast. Everybody have a great afternoon. Go Browns. Victory Monday coming up soon. And remember too, that's right, keep smiling. Take care.